The teddy bear's glass eye had been staring at Maria throughout the 12-hour journey, but it wasn't until the customs agent cracked it open that she realized it had been staring back. What spilled from a hollow socket wasn't stuffing, but sophisticated surveillance equipment that transformed their desperate border crossing into the center of a federal investigation. Her 4-year-old son Diego had been playing with that same bear for hours, innocently cuddling the very device that would expose not just their illegal entry, but an international crime network that had been using toy shipments to smuggle more than just desperate families. The moment Agent Williams held up the tiny camera and announced that Homeland Security needed to examine every stuffed animal in the container, Maria knew their carefully planned escape from Guatemala had become something far more dangerous than simple immigration violation. Hidden among thousands of innocent toys bound for American stores, she and Diego had stumbled into the middle of an operation that made their border crossing look like child's play compared to the sophisticated criminal enterprise they'd unknowingly joined. 3 months earlier, Maria had been living a nightmare disguised as normal life in Guatemala City. Her husband's murder by gang members demanding protection money had left her with two choices: pay the same criminals who'd killed him, or run before they decided Diego might be useful leverage for future extortion. The police offered sympathy, but no protection. The courts offered procedures, but no justice. The only safety lay somewhere beyond Guatemala's borders, in a country where 4-year-olds didn't witness their fathers bleeding out on kitchen floors. The smuggling contact had come through her sister-in-law, who cleaned houses for wealthy families that understood border economics. For $8,000, a company called Sunshine Imports would transport Maria and Diego from Guatemala City to Los Angeles in a legitimate toy shipment. The plan seemed almost gentle compared to desert crossings or truck compartments. They'd travel surrounded by stuffed animals and children's games, hidden among cargo designed to bring joy rather than fear. Sunshine Imports operated from a warehouse in Guatemala City that looked completely legitimate. Rows of shelves held thousands of toys destined for American stores, everything properly labeled and manifested for international shipping. The company had all the right paperwork, all the proper certifications, all the customs agreements that allowed them to move cargo across borders without excessive scrutiny. It was the perfect cover for moving more than merchandise. The hiding compartment was cleverly designed, built into the container's ventilation system with space for up to 4 adults and supplies for a week-long journey. Maria and Diego would enter through a panel disguised as part of the shipping container structure, remain hidden during loading and transport, then emerge at a Los Angeles warehouse where the company's American partners would help them disappear into the city's immigrant communities. On loading day, the warehouse bustled with legitimate activity. Workers packed toys according to shipping manifests, sealed containers according to customs requirements, processed paperwork according to international trade regulations. Maria and Diego entered the hiding space through a panel that closed seamlessly, leaving no trace of human cargo among the mountains of stuffed animals and plastic toys surrounding their compartment. The journey began smoothly, with the container loaded onto trucks, then ships, then trucks again as it made its way through the commercial shipping networks that connected Central America to California ports. Maria had brought enough supplies for herself and Diego, plus entertainment to keep a 4-year-old quiet during the long periods when any noise might reveal their presence to port workers or customs inspectors. Diego had been fascinated by the teddy bear from the moment they'd entered the container. It had fallen from its packaging during loading, and Maria had let him keep it as a companion for the journey. The bear seemed well-made, with soft fur and bright glass eyes that caught the LED lighting from their hiding space. Diego talked to it, shared his crackers with it, treated it like the friend he'd lost when they fled Guatemala City. The container's movement told them they were making progress. The swaying motion of ocean travel, the bumping and grinding of port machinery, the steady vibration of highway transport that meant they were approaching their destination. Everything was proceeding according to the plans Sunshine Imports had outlined. They were just another piece of cargo in the vast machinery of international trade. But something was wrong at the Los Angeles port. Instead of the quick customs clearance the company had promised, their container was selected for detailed inspection. Maria heard voices outside, official-sounding conversations about random cargo checks and security protocols. What should have been routine processing became an extensive examination that lasted hours rather than minutes. The customs agents who opened the container were thorough, systematically examining the toy shipment with equipment that suggested they were looking for more than immigration violations. They had X-ray machines, chemical detectors, and a methodical approach to searching that indicated specific intelligence about the cargo. This wasn't a random inspection, but a targeted investigation. When Agent Williams found a camera in Diego's teddy bear, everything changed. The device was sophisticated, high-definition video recording, wireless transmission capability, memory storage that contained weeks of footage. The bear had been documenting everything it saw, transmitting data to receivers that customs agents were now desperately trying to locate. The toy shipment was more than smuggling cover. It was surveillance equipment disguised as innocent merchandise. The investigation expanded rapidly as agents discovered more cameras hidden in other toys throughout the container. Dolls with recording devices in their heads, toy cars with tracking equipment in their chassis, board games with data storage hidden in their boxes. The entire shipment was a surveillance network designed to monitor something far more valuable than Maria and Diego's border crossing. Agent Williams explained the situation with professional concern that couldn't hide his excitement about the discovery. Sunshine Imports was under investigation for using toy shipments to smuggle espionage equipment into the United States. The cameras were part of a larger network designed to monitor American infrastructure, military installations, and government facilities. Maria and Diego weren't just illegal immigrants. They were unwitting participants in international espionage. The choice Maria faced was stark but clear. Cooperate with the investigation by providing information about Sunshine Imports operations in Guatemala, and receive protection plus potential legal status as material witnesses. Refuse to cooperate and face prosecution, not just for illegal entry, but for participation in espionage activities that carried far more serious penalties than immigration violations. Maria's cooperation began with detailed debriefings about her interactions with Sunshine Imports, from the initial contact through her sister-in-law to the loading process she'd witnessed in Guatemala City. Every detail was significant. The warehouse layout, the employee procedures, the shipping schedules that might indicate when other surveillance equipment was entering the country. The investigation revealed the sophistication of the operations Sunshine Imports was running. They were legitimately importing toys while using the shipments to smuggle surveillance equipment for foreign intelligence services. The toy company provided perfect cover. Customs agents expected to find cameras in electronic toys, making it easy to hide sophisticated espionage equipment among legitimate products. Diego's testimony, filtered through child psychologists and play therapy, provided unexpected insights into the operation. He'd observed details during their time in the warehouse that adults had missed, noticed patterns in worker behavior that suggested the toy packaging was being manipulated in ways that went beyond normal shipping procedures. His innocent observations became crucial evidence in understanding how the surveillance network operated. The federal case that emerged was massive, involving multiple agencies and international cooperation with Guatemala's anti-corruption units. Maria's information helped identify other smuggling routes, other shipments that carried surveillance equipment, other families who'd been unknowingly used as cover for espionage operations. Her cooperation was invaluable to dismantling a network that had been operating for years. Living in witness protection was surreal for someone who'd been planning to disappear into Los Angeles' underground economy. Maria and Diego were housed in safe facilities, provided with education and health care, protected from both the criminals who'd killed her husband and the espionage network they'd helped expose. Their illegal entry had been transformed into legal residence through cooperation with national security investigations. The trial proceedings were complex, involving classified evidence and international intelligence sharing that required special security clearances even for defense attorneys. Maria testified about her experiences with Sunshine Imports, describing the warehouse operations and shipping procedures that had enabled the surveillance network. Her testimony was crucial to establishing how the espionage equipment had entered the country. Diego had grown attached to the teddy bear despite learning about the camera hidden in its eye. Child psychologists working with the prosecution allowed him to keep a similar bear thoroughly examined and certified camera-free, as a transitional object during the stress of testimony and relocation. The innocent toy that had exposed an international crime network became a symbol of survival for a 4-year-old who'd seen too much violence. The convictions that followed were extensive, involving not just Sunshine Imports leadership, but their contacts in American toy stores who'd helped distribute surveillance equipment to end users. The network had been placing cameras near sensitive locations for years, gathering intelligence about everything from military bases to government buildings. Maria's accidental discovery had prevented ongoing espionage activities. The toy industry faced increased scrutiny following the case, with new inspection protocols designed to detect hidden surveillance equipment in imported merchandise. Customs agents received training in recognizing modified toys, and random inspections of toy shipments increased dramatically. The case became a textbook example of how legitimate commerce could be exploited for intelligence gathering. Maria's immigration status was eventually resolved through a special program for witnesses in national security cases. She and Diego received permanent resident status, work authorization, and access to social services that helped them rebuild their lives in Los Angeles. Their illegal entry had been transformed into legal residence through their cooperation with federal investigations. The psychological impact of their experience was complex. Maria had achieved her goal of reaching safety in America, but through circumstances that made their arrival feel more like accident than accomplishment. They'd escaped gang violence in Guatemala, only to become witnesses in an international espionage case, trading one form of danger for another type of protection. Diego adapted to American life with the resilience of childhood, learning English quickly and making friends in the diverse Los Angeles community where they'd settled. But he remained fascinated by toys with moving parts, always checking for hidden cameras, demonstrating an awareness of deception that seemed too sophisticated for someone so young. The warehouse in Guatemala City where they'd begun their journey was eventually raided by joint American-Guatemalan forces, revealing the full scope of Sunshine Imports operations. They'd been smuggling not just surveillance equipment, but also using toy shipments to move money, documents, and other materials for various criminal enterprises. Maria's cooperation had exposed a criminal network far larger than anyone had initially suspected. Other families had used Sunshine Import services, but most had completed their journeys without discovering the surveillance equipment hidden among the toys. Maria and Diego's experience was unique because customs agents had received specific intelligence about the espionage network, leading to the detailed inspection that revealed the cameras. Without that intelligence, they might have crossed undetected and never learned about the illegal network they'd supported. The teddy bear that had started everything was kept as evidence, its camera removed and analyzed by intelligence agencies that traced its connections to foreign espionage services. The toy that had comforted a frightened child during a dangerous journey had simultaneously been gathering intelligence for foreign governments, creating a bizarre convergence of innocent need and sophisticated crime. Years later, Maria worked as a translator for federal agencies investigating human trafficking and smuggling networks. Her experience with Sunshine Imports had given her insights into how legitimate businesses could be exploited for criminal purposes, how desperate people could be unknowingly used as cover for sophisticated operations, how the border between legal and illegal commerce was often blurred by criminal creativity. Diego grew up with an unusual awareness of how ordinary objects could hide extraordinary secrets. His childhood experience of discovering cameras and toys had taught him to look beyond surface appearances, to question seemingly innocent situations, to understand that truth was often more complex than initial impressions suggested. The 4-year-old who played with a surveillance device had become a teenager who understood the complexity of a world where nothing was entirely what it seemed. The toy industry security protocols had evolved in response to the case, with manufacturers implementing new quality control measures designed to detect unauthorized modifications to their products. But criminal networks adapted too, finding new ways to exploit legitimate commerce for illegal purposes, creating an ongoing arms race between law enforcement and criminal innovation. Maria's story became part of the training materials used to educate customs agents about the sophisticated methods criminals use to smuggle prohibited items across borders. Her experience demonstrated how human trafficking and espionage could intersect, how criminal networks often operated multiple illegal enterprises simultaneously, how one investigation could reveal crimes far beyond its original scope. The container that carried them from Guatemala to Los Angeles was eventually returned to legitimate use, but it carried new security features designed to detect hidden compartments and unauthorized cargo. The shipping industry had learned from the case, implementing new protocols for container security and cargo verification that made similar operations more difficult. Sunshine Imports had been permanently shut down, its assets seized, and its leadership imprisoned for espionage, human trafficking, and money laundering. But other companies had taken its place, finding new ways to exploit international commerce for criminal purposes, adapting their methods to avoid the detection techniques that had exposed the toy surveillance network. The teddy bear's camera had been designed to be undetectable, hidden so cleverly that even customs agents might have missed it without specific intelligence about the surveillance network. But Diego's innocent play with the toy during their journey had been recorded, creating footage that became evidence in the espionage case. His childish games had unknowingly documented the very crime they'd been used to commit. Maria's cooperation with federal investigators had transformed her from a legal immigrant to valuable witness, from criminal fugitive to protected asset. The border crossing that had begun as desperate flight from violence had become a contribution to national security, proving that sometimes the most important discoveries happen by accident, when desperate people stumbled into criminal networks they never knew existed. The surveillance equipment hidden in children's toys represented a particularly cynical exploitation of innocence, using objects designed to bring joy as tools for espionage and control. The case had revealed how criminal networks could corrupt anything, turning even symbols of childhood happiness into instruments of international crime. But it had also shown how accidental discoveries could expose sophisticated criminal operations, how ordinary people fleeing desperate circumstances could become heroes in investigations that protected national security. Maria's journey from Guatemala to Los Angeles had saved more than just her family. It had helped dismantle a criminal network that threatened the safety of countless others. The glass eye of a teddy bear had seen more than anyone intended, recording crimes while accompanying a child, documenting espionage while providing innocent entertainment. In the end, the surveillance device that was meant to spy on America had instead revealed the criminals who'd hidden it, turning their own technology against them through the accident of one desperate mother's decision to let her son keep a toy that would change both their lives forever